She's drowning, Daddy. Mommy's drowning again. The scream tears through the Pacific storm like a siren, and Nathan Calloway's world tilts sideways. His 6-year-old son, Lucas, is already out of the car, his small body a pale streak against the violent darkness of Highway 1. Lightning illuminates the boy's face, eyes wide with terror, mouth open in a wail that cuts deeper than the howling wind. Nathan's hands freeze on the steering wheel. 3 years. 3 years since the accident, and Lucas has never spoken about that night. Never said his mother's name. Never acknowledged what he witnessed when their family sailboat capsized in these same treacherous waters. Until now. There! Lucas's voice cracks as he points toward the churning ocean. The light she's signaling, Nathan sees only blackness. Endless, hungry blackness that swallowed his wife and nearly claimed his son. But Lucas is already stumbling down the rocky embankment, his thin legs carrying him toward the waves with desperate urgency. Lucas stop. Nathan abandons the car engine, still running hazard lights, bleeding red into the storm. His Italian leather shoes find no purchase on the slick rocks. Son, please. But Lucas doesn't stop. He plunges into the surf water that Nathan knows is bone-numbingly cold current, strong enough to drag grown men to their deaths. The same water that took Sarah. Nathan's paternal instincts override 3 years of careful emotional numbness. He crashes through the waves, salt spray stinging his eyes, his expensive suit becoming waterlogged dead weight. A massive swell builds behind them, dark as judgment, tall as a building. She needs help. Lucas sobs, his small arms flailing as he tries to swim toward nothing. Empty ocean. Can't you see her? The boat's sinking again? Nathan reaches his son just as the wave breaks. The world becomes a chaos of crushing water, tumbling bodies, the taste of fear and brine. Nathan wraps his arms around Lucas and pulls him against his chest, using his own body as a shield against the ocean's fury. For one terrifying moment, he feels the current trying to claim them, both Sarah's ghost reaching up from the depths. Then Nathan's feet hit sand. He staggers backward, carrying Lucas like precious cargo, both of them choking on seawater and gasping in the storm-torn air. Lucas clings to him with the desperate strength of a child who's watched one parent vanish into these waves. She was there. Lucas whispers against Nathan's neck, his small body shaking. In the white boat, like before. She had the light to show us the way home. Nathan's blood crystallizes. The white boat. Sarah's boat. The Coast Guard told him Lucas remembered nothing from that night, traumatic amnesia, they called it. But children's minds work differently. Children see things adults can't. Or children create things adults can't bear to believe. 20 minutes later, Coast Guard Lieutenant Rodriguez speaks in careful, practiced tones about grief hallucinations in children, about the mind's need to process unfinished trauma. Nathan nods and apologizes, playing the role of the responsible father whose son had a temporary breakdown. But as they drive away from the beach, Lucas presses his palm against the fogged rear window. His breath creates small clouds as he whispers, "Don't worry, Mommy. We'll come back tomorrow." That night in the marble and glass monument to success that no longer feels like home. Nathan sits in his study, surrounded by corporate reports he can't focus on. Through the window, San Francisco's lights glitter like false stars. His phone buzzes with messages from board members, investors, people who measure his worth in stock prices and quarterly projections. None of them know that Nathan Calloway, tech empire builder, strategic genius Forbes cover story, is terrified of his own 6-year-old son. Terrified of what Lucas sees in the water. Terrified of what it might mean. Terrified that after 3 years of expensive therapy and careful emotional management, they're both still drowning. At 3 a.m., Nathan makes the call, that will either save them or destroy everything he's built. By dawn, his assistant is booking movers, his lawyers are drafting temporary custody arrangements, and his board is receiving a memo that will send Callaway Enterprises stock into freefall. They're leaving Silicon Valley, leaving the life Sarah wanted for them, the success she died believing in. They're going back to the place where it all ended, hoping against hope it might be where their healing can begin. But some ghosts don't stay buried, and some small coastal towns hold secrets that will test everything Nathan thought he knew about love loss and the price of redemption. Mendocino pierces Nathan's carefully constructed emotional armor within hours of their arrival. The rented beach house, all weathered cedar and wide windows, feels like stepping into someone else's life. A life where success isn't measured in stock prices but in the number of seagulls Lucas counts from the front porch, where the sound of waves against rocks doesn't trigger panic attacks, but something dangerously close to peace. But peace is a luxury Nathan Callaway can't afford. Not when Lucas still won't say his mother's name. Not when the boys' nightmares wake them both at 2 a.m., his small voice crying for someone who will never answer. The first morning, Nathan finds Lucas exactly where he feared, sitting on the sand, staring at the horizon with that unsettling intensity that makes Nathan's skin crawl. The child's sketchbook lies open beside him, page after page of the same haunting image, a small white boat alone on dark water, its sail torn and flapping like a broken wing. "Morning, buddy." Nathan settles beside his son, careful not to disturb the artistic ritual that seems to be the only thing keeping Lucas tethered to reality. "What are you working on?" Lucas's pencil hovers over the paper, trembling slightly. He's drawn the boat at least 50 times since they arrived, but today something's different. Today there are 2 tiny figures visible in the boat's hull stick, people barely more than scratches, but unmistakably human. "Is that you and Mommy?" Nathan asks gently. Lucas shakes his head without looking up. "Me and you. Trying to find her." The words hit Nathan like a physical blow. For 3 years, therapists have tried to get Lucas to express his feelings about the accident, about his mother's death, about his father's emotional absence in the aftermath. Now apparently all it took was returning to the scene of the trauma. Nathan reaches for the sketchbook, but Lucas snaps it shut with surprising force. "Not ready," the boy whispers. "The story isn't finished yet." Before Nathan can ask what that means, a voice interrupts from behind them. "You know, broken boats don't always sink. Sometimes they just need better navigators." Nathan turns to see a young woman approaching across the sand, her movement graceful despite the uneven terrain. She's African American, probably late 20s, with natural hair that catches the morning light and paint-stained fingers that suggest she's an artist herself. There's something magnetic about her presence, a warmth that makes Lucas stop his compulsive sketching and actually look up. "I'm Serena Ellison," she says, crouching down to Lucas's eye level with the practiced ease of someone who works with children. "I run art classes at the community center down the beach. I couldn't help noticing your drawings yesterday. You've got a real eye for boats." Lucas doesn't speak, but he doesn't flee either. That alone is progress worth celebrating. Nathan stands grateful for any adult who can connect with his son. "Nathan Callaway, this is Lucas. We're working through some things." The moment Nathan gives his full name, Serena's demeanor shifts so dramatically, it's like watching storm clouds roll across a sunny sky. Her smile becomes fixed, professional, and the warmth in her eyes cools to something Nathan can't quite read, but definitely doesn't like. "Callaway," she repeats slowly, as if tasting something bitter. "Nathan Callaway of Callaway Enterprises." "Yes." Nathan's stomach starts to knot. Though right now I'm just a father trying to help his son heal. Heal. Serena stands slowly, her eyes never leaving Nathan's face. That's an interesting choice of words coming from you. Nathan doesn't understand the sudden hostility, but Lucas is watching this exchange with growing anxiety, his grip tightening on the sketchbook. "I'm sorry, have we met before?" Nathan asks. "Not personally, but your company and I have a history." Serena's voice carries the kind of controlled anger that comes from old wounds carefully tended. "Tell me, Mr. Calloway, do you personally review every funding request that crosses your desk? Or do you leave those decisions to underlings who don't have to look real people in the eye when they destroy their dreams?" Nathan's blood pressure spikes. He remembers nothing about individual grant applications. Callaway Enterprises receives hundreds annually, everything filtered through legal and PR departments. But the way Serena is looking at him suggests this isn't about corporate bureaucracy. This is personal. 3 years ago, Serena continues, her voice gaining strength. The Mendocino Community Arts Center submitted a funding proposal to your company. $12,000. Not pocket change for us, but probably what you spend on a single business lunch. We needed that money to keep our after-school programs running, to provide art therapy for kids dealing with trauma, to maintain the one safe space many of these children had. Nathan's mouth goes dry. What happened to the request? Form letter rejection. Not aligned with current corporate giving priorities. Signed by some assistant whose name I've memorized because I spent 6 months writing follow-up letters that were never answered. Serena's composure cracks slightly, revealing pain that's clearly still raw. We lost half our programming, had to cut staff, turn away families who couldn't afford private therapy. I never saw that proposal, Nathan says quickly. If you had what you would have personally intervened, you would have made an exception for one little art center in a town you'd never heard of. Serena's laugh is sharp, humorless. Mr. Calloway, do you know what $12,000 meant to us? It was the difference between keeping our doors open and watching kids with nowhere else to go fall through the cracks. Nathan wants to defend himself, to explain that he can't possibly review every funding request personally, that his company supports dozens of charitable causes. But Lucas is watching this confrontation with wide eyes, and Nathan realizes that whatever explanation he offers will sound like exactly what it is, a wealthy man making excuses for systemic indifference. "I'm sorry," he says instead. "Genuinely sorry. If I had known, but you didn't know. That's the point." Serena turns away, then pauses. "Your son didn't make those decisions, though, and he doesn't deserve to suffer because of them." She looks back at Lucas, her expression softening completely. The art center is still open. Smaller, struggling, but open. We have classes every afternoon at 3. If you'd like to come, you're welcome. All kids are welcome regardless of their parents' mistakes. She starts to walk away, then stops one more time. "Mr. Calloway, the children here pay what they can. Sometimes that's $1, sometimes it's nothing. But they all bring something real, their stories, their pain, their hope. If you decide to join us, I hope you can find something real to bring too." Nathan watches her go, feeling smaller than he has since the night Sarah died. Lucas tugs at his sleeve, pointing toward the community center's weathered sign visible in the distance. "Can we go?" Lucas asks quietly. "To the art place." "Do you want to?" Lucas nods slowly. She understands about broken boats. That afternoon, Nathan sits on a bench outside the Mendocino Community Arts Center, listening to children's voices drift through open windows. The building is clearly struggling, peeling paint, mismatched furniture visible through glass, a hand-lettered sign advertising sliding scale fees. But there's life here, energy, something Nathan's sterile corporate world has never contained. Through the window, he watches Serena guide small hands with infinite patience, sees her laugh at something. Lucas whispers the first time Nathan has heard his son speak voluntarily to a stranger in months. Rough first day. A gravelly voice interrupts his observation. Nathan looks up to see an older man settling beside him on the bench. He's weathered like driftwood, wearing a cable-knit sweater that smells of pipe tobacco and decades of salt air. "Mac Finnegan," the man introduces himself. "I run the coffee shop down by the marina. Been watching folks wrestle with their demons on this bench for about 20 years. "That obvious," Mac chuckles, lighting a well-worn pipe. "Son, you've got the look of a man who's just discovered he's been playing the wrong game his whole life." Nathan considers this. Maybe I have been. "Serena give you the full treatment. She's got a gift for holding up mirrors people didn't know they needed to look in." Mac puffs thoughtfully. "Lost her funding a few years back. Nearly broke her heart, but she found a way to keep going. Always does. Because she had to. Because she chose to. Big difference." Mac studies Nathan with eyes the color of storm clouds. "You know what the difference is between a tourist and a local in a place like this?" Nathan shakes his head. "Tourists come here to take something, pictures, experiences, stories to tell back home. Locals come here to give something, time, energy, pieces of themselves. Which one are you planning to be?" Before Nathan can answer, the art center's door opens, and children begin streaming out, clutching papers and wearing expressions of deep satisfaction. Lucas appears last, walking slowly toward Nathan with something precious held against his chest. "What do you have there, buddy?" Lucas unfolds a piece of paper, the same boat drawing but transformed. The torn sail has been repaired with strips of colorful tissue paper. The dark water now has small fish swimming beneath the surface. And most remarkably, there's a lighthouse in the distance, its beam reaching across the water like a guiding hand. "Miss Serena helped me fix it," Lucas says quietly. "She said every story can have a new chapter, but you have to be brave enough to pick up the pencil." Nathan stares at the artwork, seeing metaphor layered beneath his son's innocent words. "It's beautiful. She said I could come back tomorrow, if you say it's okay." Nathan looks at the art center, at Serena visible through the window as she cleans paintbrushes and straightens chairs. She glances toward them, once her expression unreadable but not hostile. There's something else there, curiosity maybe, or challenge. "Yes," Nathan says finally. "We'll come back tomorrow." That evening, after Lucas falls asleep, clutching his transformed boat, drawing, Nathan opens his laptop and begins researching. The Mendocino Community Arts Center's website is basic but heartbreaking photos of children's artwork, testimonials from parents about how the center saved their kids from depression and isolation, budget reports showing how they stretch every dollar to its absolute limit. And buried deep in his company's digital archives, Nathan finds it the funding proposal Serena mentioned. $12,000 for art therapy programs, youth outreach, community mental health support. The request is thorough, compelling, backed by data and testimonials that would move anyone with a functioning heart. Rejected with a form letter Nathan has never seen, signed by a legal assistant he couldn't pick out of a lineup. Nathan stares at the screen until the numbers blur. $12,000. He spends more than that on a single business dinner. His watch cost twice that amount. The wine in his cellar is worth 10 times what this community needed to keep hope alive for vulnerable children. He picks up his phone and dials his CFO. "David, it's Nathan. I need you to do something for me tomorrow morning. I need a complete audit of our charitable giving policies. and I need to know who has signing authority on grant rejections. Nathan, it's past midnight. Can this wait until... No, it can't wait. And David, I want a full report on every funding request we've denied in the past 5 years. Every single one. After he hangs up, Nathan walks to the window overlooking the Pacific. In the distance, the lighthouse beam sweeps across dark water in its eternal rhythm. Lucas was right. Some lights never stop trying to guide people home. Tomorrow, Nathan will have to face Serena again, armed with information that might begin to bridge the gap between them. What he doesn't know is that someone else has been watching their growing connection, someone with very different plans for Nathan's future. The third day of art class brings unexpected progress. Lucas not only speaks to Serena directly, but actually laughs when another child accidentally spills paint across her paper. It's a small sound, barely more than a giggle, but it hits Nathan like sunlight breaking through storm clouds. Your son has a gift, Serena says as the children clean up their supplies. Her tone toward Nathan is still cool, professional, but there's warmth when she looks at Lucas. He sees things differently. That's not always easy in this world, but it's precious. Nathan wants to thank her to find words adequate for what she's doing for his son, but the art center's phone rings before he can speak. Serena answers with her usual patience, but her expression quickly changes. What do you mean, canceled? Her voice rises slightly. But we've had that grant approved for months. Nathan watches her face fall as she listens to whatever news is being delivered. Lucas notices too, moving closer to Serena with the instinctive protectiveness children show toward adults they've grown to trust. I see. No, I understand. Thank you for calling. Serena hangs up her hands, trembling slightly. What's wrong? Nathan asks, though he's already dreading the answer. Nothing that concerns you, Serena says quickly, but her voice cracks. Lucas, sweetheart, can you help me put the brushes away? But Lucas is too observant, too sensitive to emotional undercurrents. Are you sad? Is the art place going away? Serena kneels beside him, forcing a smile that doesn't reach her eyes. Sometimes grown-ups have to figure out difficult things, but we'll keep painting together, I promise. Nathan knows he should leave it alone, respect her clear wish for privacy. But watching Lucas's face crumple with worry breaks something inside him. The grant fell through. It's not a question. Serena's silence is answer enough. How much? Nathan presses. Mr. Calloway. How much? 15,000. The words come out like pulled teeth. It was going to cover supplies and utilities for the next 6 months. Without it, she doesn't finish the sentence, but the implication hangs heavy in the paint-scented air. Nathan's mind immediately jumps to solutions. Write a check, make a phone call, fix this the way he fixes everything else with money and influence. But Serena's expression stops him. She's watching him with the wariness of someone who's learned not to trust easy answers from powerful men. I know what you're thinking, she says quietly. But charity isn't what we need. We need sustainable support, community investment, not handouts from guilty billionaires looking to buy peace of mind. Her words sting because they're partially true. But Nathan also recognizes something else in her refusal, the fierce pride of someone who's been underestimated and overlooked too many times to count. That evening, Nathan makes phone calls, not to his accountants or lawyers, but to local business owners, community leaders, anyone who might have insights about sustainable arts funding. It's work he's never done before. Grassroots personal, requiring him to listen more than he speaks. He's still on the phone when Lucas appears in his doorway, clutching his sketchbook. Daddy, I made something for Miss Serena. Nathan covers the phone's mouthpiece. What is it, buddy? A journal. Like she makes with us. but this one's for grown-ups. Lucas opens the sketchbook to reveal pages he's carefully decorated with drawings of boats, lighthouses, and what might be dolphins or maybe clouds. Nathan isn't sure, but each page radiates hope and love. "That's beautiful, Lucas. She's going to love it." "Will you help me write words? I want to tell her something important." Nathan ends his call and sits beside his son on the living room couch. "What do you want to say?" Lucas is quiet for a long moment, his small fingers tracing the lines of his drawings. "I want to say, before we came here, everything felt broken, like my boat picture. But Miss Serena shows us how to fix things with colors and stories. I want her to know that she fixes people too." Nathan's throat tightens. That's a very grown-up thing to understand. "Mommy used to say that fixing things isn't about making them like new. It's about making them beautiful in a different way." Lucas looks up at Nathan with eyes that suddenly seem too old for his 6-year-old face. "Miss Serena makes broken things beautiful." They spend the next hour carefully crafting Lucas's message in the front of the decorated journal. Nathan helps with spelling, but the words are entirely his son's. When they finish, Lucas hugs the book to his chest and goes to bed without his usual resistance. Nathan stays awake long into the night, making more calls, researching grants and community development funds. He's not trying to buy his way into good graces. Serena made it clear that approach would backfire. Instead, he's learning about a world that exists parallel to his own, where success is measured in children's smiles and community resilience, rather than stock prices and market dominance. The next morning brings an unwelcome surprise. Nathan's phone buzzes with a text from his assistant in Silicon Valley. "Media inquiry about your relocation. Someone tipped them off about the art center connection. Call me ASAP." Nathan's blood chills. He's been careful to keep their Mendocino retreat private, partly for Lucas's sake, and partly because he knows how the business press would spin this story. Billionaire having breakdown. Tech titan loses grip after family tragedy. CEO abandons company for hippie art therapy. But it's worse than he imagined. The caller is Jake Morrison from Silicon Valley Insider, and he already has details that make Nathan's skin crawl. "We're running a piece about your involvement with a local teacher," Morrison says without preamble. "Sources say you've been spending considerable time at a community arts center, developing a close relationship with staff member Serena Ellison. Care to comment?" "There's no story here," Nathan says firmly. "My son is recovering from trauma. We're exploring therapeutic activities." "Of course. And the fact that Ms. Ellison is an attractive single mother has nothing to do with your sudden interest in community art." Nathan wants to hang up, but he knows that will only make things worse. "My son lost his mother. He's struggling with grief and adjustment. Art therapy was recommended by his counselor. That's the entire story. Interesting timing, though. Your company denied funding to this same art center just a few years ago. Now you're personally invested." Some might call it convenient. The line goes dead, leaving Nathan staring at his phone with growing dread. Someone fed that reporter information, specific personal details about their activities about Serena. Someone who wants to create exactly the kind of scandal that would force Nathan back to Silicon Valley with his tail between his legs. Nathan can think of only one person with both the motivation and resources to orchestrate this kind of attack: Damon Strickland. His former business partner has been circling Callaway Enterprises like a vulture since Sarah's death, pushing for mergers and acquisitions that would essentially gut the company Nathan built. With Nathan distracted by Lucas's recovery, Damon has been gaining influence with the board, positioning himself as the stable leadership the company needs. A scandal involving Nathan's judgment, his emotional stability, his fitness as a father and CEO that would be exactly what Damon needs to force a hostile takeover. Nathan's hands shake as he calls his lawyer, his publicist, his head of security. Damage control mode. The same crisis management protocols he's used to protect the company from external threats. But this time it's his son who will pay the price. Lucas is already at the art center when Nathan arrives earlier than usual, his eyes bright with anticipation about giving Serena his handmade journal. Nathan doesn't have the heart to interrupt, so he waits outside watching through the window as his son proudly presents his gift. Serena's face transforms as she reads Lucas's message. She kneels beside him, pulling him into a gentle hug that makes the little boy's whole body relax in a way Nathan hasn't seen since before the accident. And Nathan realizes that whatever storm is coming, whatever damage Damon plans to inflict, he won't let it destroy this fragile healing his son has found. But some storms are bigger than good intentions, and Damon Strickland has only just begun to show his hand. The article hits the internet at 6 a.m. the next morning, timed perfectly for maximum damage. Nathan's phone starts buzzing before he's fully awake. Calls from board members, investors, reporters, all wanting to know about his romantic entanglement with a struggling single mother, while he's supposed to be focusing on his company and his grieving son. The headline makes Nathan's stomach turn. Billionaire CEO's art therapy or heart therapy inside Nathan Callaway's small-town romance. The piece is a masterclass in innuendo and character assassination. It mentions Lucas's trauma only in passing, focusing instead on Nathan's frequent visits to the art center, his intense conversations with Serena, and anonymous sources suggesting he's using his son's tragedy to pursue a relationship with a much younger woman. Worst of all, there are photos. Someone with a telephoto lens captured Nathan and Serena talking outside the art center, Lucas between them, holding both their hands as they walked to the beach. Innocent moments twisted into evidence of romantic manipulation. Nathan is still reeling when his phone rings. Damon's name appears on the screen, and Nathan knows this conversation will confirm his worst suspicions. Rough morning. Damon's voice carries that familiar tone of mock sympathy that used to set Nathan's teeth on edge during board meetings. I saw the article. Unfortunate timing with the Ashford Industries merger coming up for vote. Cut the act, Damon. You planted this story. I don't know what you mean. I simply think it's interesting how you've chosen to handle your grief. Taking your traumatized son to a small town to play house with a local teacher. Some might question your judgment. Nathan grips the phone tighter. Lucas is healing. For the first time since Sarah died, he's actually engaging with the world. I won't let you destroy that. Destroy Nathan, I'm trying to save your company. The board is already asking questions about your extended absence, your decision-making capacity. This article just confirms what they're already thinking, that you're not fit to lead right now. The company is fine. I'm still involved in all major decisions. Are you? Because I'm looking at emails about your withdrawal from the Henderson contract, your refusal to attend the Singapore conference, your complete absence from strategic planning sessions. Add romantic scandal to the mix, and it starts to look like a pattern of poor judgment. Nathan wants to argue, but he knows Damon is right about one thing: he has been pulling back from the company, choosing Lucas's needs over business demands. For the first time in his adult life, he's been putting family first. What do you want? Nathan asks. A smooth transition. You step back to Chairman Emeritus, I take over as CEO. You get to focus on your son's recovery without the stress of day-to-day operations. Everyone wins. Except the 1,000 employees who'll lose their jobs when you start gutting departments. Creative destruction, Nathan. You taught me that. Sometimes you have to break things down to build them better. The line goes dead, leaving Nathan staring at his phone. Outside, he can hear Lucas playing in the backyard, making sound effects for whatever adventure his imagination has created. Normal childhood sounds that have been rare and precious since the accident. Nathan's computer chimes with an email from his head of security. The photos weren't taken by a random paparazzi. They were shot by a private investigator hired by someone with significant resources. The metadata shows sophisticated equipment, long-range surveillance, professional-grade work. Another chime. This time it's his publicist with worse news. 3 more media outlets are planning follow-up stories, each with increasingly salacious angles. TMZ is allegedly working on a piece about Nathan's pattern of using grief to manipulate women. A business journal wants to explore how his emotional instability affects his company's stock price. Nathan's hands shake as he dials Serena's number, knowing he has to warn her about what's coming. The call goes straight to voicemail. He tries the art center, but there's no answer there either. Growing increasingly panicked, Nathan drives to town, finding a cluster of cars outside the community center that's unusual for a weekday morning. As he gets closer, he sees local news vans, cameras, reporters shoving microphones at anyone who emerges from the building. His heart sinks. They've brought the circus to Serena's doorstep. Nathan parks a block away and walks, trying to stay unnoticed. Through the center's window, he can see Serena inside her face, pale and drawn, as she talks on the phone. Lucas is nowhere to be seen. Mr. Calloway. A reporter spots him before he can reach the door. Can you comment on your relationship with Ms. Ellison? Are you using your son's therapy as a cover for a romantic relationship? More reporters swarm toward him, cameras rolling, voices overlapping in a cacophony of invasive questions. Nathan pushes through them, desperate to reach Serena to apologize, to somehow fix this. But when he finally gets inside, Serena won't meet his eyes. "Where's Lucas?" Nathan asks immediately. "I sent him home with Mrs. Chen from down the street. I didn't want him to see." She gestures helplessly toward the chaos outside. "Serena, I'm so sorry. I had no idea this would happen." "Didn't you?" Her voice is quiet, controlled, but Nathan can hear the hurt underneath. "You're a billionaire CEO, Nathan. You had to know that getting involved with people like us would create a tension. People like you, poor people, black people, single mothers with complicated histories." She finally looks at him directly, and Nathan sees something breaking in her eyes. People who can't protect themselves when your world decides to take notice. Nathan wants to argue, to tell her that's not how he sees her, that this isn't what he wanted. But looking around the art center, this safe space she's built for vulnerable children, now invaded by cameras and reporters, he realizes his intentions don't matter. His presence in her life has brought destruction, just like his company's rejection letter 3 years ago. "A reporter called me this morning," Serena continues. "He knew things, Nathan. Details about my past, about my daughter's father, about financial struggles I've never discussed publicly. Someone did deep research on my life, and they're threatening to air all of it unless I give them a statement about our relationship." Nathan's blood runs cold. "What kind of details?" "The kind that could destroy what little reputation I have in this community. The kind that could make parents question whether I'm fit to teach their children." Her voice cracks slightly. "The kind that could cost me custody of my daughter if the wrong people decide to use them against me." Nathan realizes the full scope of Damon's attack. It's not just about forcing him out of the company. It's about systematically destroying anyone who might give Nathan a reason to stay away from Silicon Valley. First the art center funding, now Serena's reputation and livelihood. Damon is playing chess while Nathan has been playing checkers. "I can fix this," Nathan says desperately. "I have lawyers, publicists. I can make this go away. With more money, more influence. Serena shakes her head. That's exactly the problem, Nathan. You think everything can be fixed with the same tools that broke it in the first place. Then what do you want me to do? Serena is quiet for a long moment, watching the reporters through the window. I want you to take your son and go back to your real life before this gets any worse for all of us. The words hit Nathan like physical blows. Serena, please. Lucas needs this. He needs you. What Lucas needs is stability, not to be the center of a media circus. What he needs is a father who puts his well-being above everything else, including... She pauses, seeming to reconsider her words. Including what? Including whatever this was between us. She turns away, beginning to pack up art supplies with hands that shake slightly. I was fooling myself thinking we could just exist in this bubble where your money and power didn't matter. But they always matter, don't they? They're always there, changing everything they touch. Nathan wants to fight for this, for her, for the healing he's watched bloom in his son over these precious few weeks. But outside, the reporters are multiplying, and he knows that every moment he stays is putting Serena and her daughter at greater risk. If I go, he says quietly, Damon wins. He gets the company he gets to destroy people just to prove he can, and Lucas loses the first place he's felt safe since his mother died. Maybe some battles aren't worth fighting if the cost is too high for innocent people. Nathan stares at her, memorizing the curve of her shoulders, the way the afternoon light catches the gold in her brown eyes, the gentle strength that drew Lucas out of his shell. He wants to tell her that he's falling in love with her, that these weeks in Mendocino have shown him what life could be like if he put people before profit. But saying those words now would only sound like manipulation, another powerful man trying to get what he wants, regardless of the cost to others. I'm sorry, he whispers instead. Serena nods without looking at him. So am I. Nathan walks toward the door, each step feeling like a betrayal of everything good that's happened here. But as he reaches for the handle, he stops. Through the window, he can see Lucas running toward the building, Mrs. Chen hurrying after him. The little boy's face is bright with excitement, probably eager to share some new discovery or creation with Serena. And Nathan realizes that walking away now, letting Damon win, letting fear dictate his choices, would be the biggest betrayal of all. Sometimes the only way to save what matters most is to risk everything. Even when you're not sure you'll survive the fall, Nathan doesn't leave. Instead, he steps back from the door and turns to face Serena with a certainty that surprises them both. No, he says simply. Serena looks up from the art supplies she's been frantically packing. Nathan, we just talked about this. No, he repeats, moving toward her. I've spent 3 years running from hard conversations, difficult choices, anything that might hurt. I ran from the board meetings after Sarah died. I ran from Lucas's grief because I didn't know how to fix it. I was about to run from this town, from you, from the first real healing my son has found. This isn't about running. This is about protecting. It's about fear. Nathan's voice is gentle but firm. And I understand that fear, Serena. I've been living it every day since I lost my wife. The fear that loving someone, caring about something, will only lead to more pain. But you know what I've learned watching Lucas these past few weeks? Lucas bursts through the door at that moment, his small face flushed with excitement and completely oblivious to the tension in the room. Miss Serena, Mrs. Chen's cat, had kittens, and she said maybe we could draw them. But first, I wanted to show you. He stops, abruptly sensing the heavy atmosphere. Are you sad again? Serena kneels down to Lucas's level, forced to shift from her own pain to maternal comfort. I'm okay, sweetheart. Sometimes grown-ups have complicated feelings. Because of the people with cameras outside, Lucas asks with the matter-of-fact observation of a child. Mrs. Chen said they want to take pictures of Daddy. She said maybe they think he's famous, like on TV. Nathan and Serena exchange a look over Lucas's head. Even in their small-town sanctuary, the outside world has found them. Lucas. Nathan says carefully, "How would you feel if we had to leave Mendocino, go back to our old house?" Lucas's face falls immediately. "But I don't want to leave. I like it here. I like drawing with Miss Serena and Arya. I like the beach where Mommy doesn't feel so far away." Nathan's chest tightens. "What do you mean about Mommy?" "When I draw here, it feels like she's watching. Like she's happy I'm making pictures again." Lucas looks between his father and Serena with sudden worry. "Did I do something wrong? Is that why we have to go?" "Oh, sweetheart, no." Serena pulls Lucas into a hug, her eyes filling with tears. "You didn't do anything wrong. You've been perfect." Then why? Nathan realizes this is the moment of truth. He can explain in careful, age-appropriate terms about business complications and media attention. He can package their retreat as temporary, necessary, mature. Or he can tell his son the truth. "Because I made mistakes a long time ago." Nathan says, sitting on the floor so he's at Lucas's eye level. "I hurt people without meaning to, and now someone wants to hurt the people we care about to punish me for those mistakes. Like when Tommy Peterson threw sand at Arya because he was mad at her mom. Something like that." Nathan is amazed by his son's ability to reduce complex adult cruelty to playground dynamics. And sometimes, when bullies are bigger and stronger, the safe thing to do is walk away. Lucas considers this seriously, his small fingers tracing patterns on the floor. "But Miss Serena taught us about the lighthouse keeper story. Remember?" Nathan looks to Serena, who seems surprised that Lucas absorbed that particular lesson. "Tell me about the lighthouse keeper," Nathan encourages. "She said there was a lighthouse keeper who kept the light on even when big storms came because ships needed to find their way home. And one night there was the biggest storm ever, and people told him to turn off the light and hide. But he said..." Lucas pauses, trying to remember the exact words. "He said some lights are too important to turn off even when it's scary." Serena's breath catches. "Lucas, that was just a story." "But you said the best stories teach us about real life." Lucas looks at her with complete trust. "You said art helps us be brave when things are hard." Nathan feels something shift inside him, a clarity that's been missing since Sarah's death. "You're right, buddy. Some lights are too important to turn off." He stands and pulls out his phone, dialing a number he knows by heart. When his lawyer answers, Nathan's voice is steady and determined. "David, it's Nathan. I need you to prepare a press release. I'm calling a press conference for tomorrow morning. And I need you to contact the Mendocino Community Arts Center's board. We're establishing a permanent endowment fund. $500,000 to start with annual contributions tied to community, need not corporate PR." "Nathan," Serena whispers, but he holds up a hand. "Also, I want you to look into Damon Strickland's recent activities. Specifically, any private investigators he's hired, any media contacts he's cultivated. If he wants to play dirty, we'll expose every connection." Nathan pauses, looking at Lucas, who's watching with wide eyes. "And David, this isn't about damage control anymore. This is about doing what's right." After he hangs up, the art center falls silent except for the sound of reporters still chattering outside. Serena stares at Nathan as if seeing him for the first time. "You can't," she says quietly. "The risk to your company, to your reputation. My reputation is that I'm a man who puts profits over people, who makes decisions from boardrooms without caring about real-world consequences. Maybe it's time for that reputation to change." And if Damon uses this to take over your company, Nathan considers this seriously. Then I'll build a new company, one that puts community investment and social responsibility at its core from day one. One that Lucas can be proud to inherit someday if he wants it. Nathan, Serena's voice breaks slightly. This is insane. You're talking about risking everything you've built. Sarah used to say that everything we build is really just borrowed, that the only things we truly own are the choices we make and the people we choose to love. Nathan looks at Lucas, who's moved to the window to watch the reporters with scientific curiosity. I'm tired of making choices based on fear. But the media attention, the scrutiny, will be intense and probably painful, Nathan acknowledges. But you know what I've been through, the worst thing I could imagine, losing my wife, watching my son retreat into grief, feeling helpless to fix any of it. And we survived. We're here in this beautiful place with people who've shown us how to heal. The rest is just noise. Serena sinks into one of the small chairs used for art classes, her hands shaking slightly. You don't understand what you're asking. The reporters will dig into everything, my past, my family mistakes I've made. They'll question my fitness as a teacher, as a mother. Then we'll fight back. With truth, with community support, with the best legal team money can buy. Nathan kneels beside her chair. Serena, I can't promise this will be easy, but I can promise you won't face it alone. Why? She whispers. Why would you do this? Nathan glances at Lucas, who's now drawing something in the condensation on the window, probably another boat. But this one looks different somehow. Steadier, more hopeful. Because 3 weeks ago, my son couldn't speak about his mother without breaking down. Today, he told me she feels close when he's drawing, because you gave him back his voice, his art, his ability to believe in good things. Nathan's voice grows stronger. And because you've given me something too, a glimpse of what life could be like if I stopped hiding behind corporate walls and started building something real. Nathan, Serena says his name like a prayer or a warning. I know it's too soon to talk about feelings about what this might become between us. But I also know that Lucas is right. Some lights are too important to turn off, even when storms are coming. Outside, Lucas presses his hand against the window, matching it to his drawing. When he pulls it away, the condensation forms a perfect handprint around his artwork. A boat with 3 figures inside sailing toward a lighthouse beacon that looks exactly like the sun. Tomorrow, Nathan will face the cameras and tell his truth. But tonight, for the first time in 3 years, his son is drawing pictures of hope. The press conference takes place on the beach in front of the art center, not in some sterile corporate conference room. Nathan stands behind a simple podium, while Lucas sits nearby with Serena, both of them painting rocks they collected that morning. The contrast is deliberate and powerful, a billionaire CEO choosing to make his stand surrounded by children's artwork and the sound of crashing waves. 3 years ago, my wife Sarah died in a boating accident. Nathan begins his voice, carrying clearly over the crowd of reporters and curious townspeople. My son Lucas witnessed the tragedy, and we've both been struggling with grief and trauma ever since. The cameras click and roll, but Nathan keeps his focus on Lucas, who looks up from his painted rock and gives him a small thumbs up. During that time, I made many decisions from a place of fear and isolation. I retreated into work, into the familiar comfort of corporate structures, and I lost sight of what really matters. One of those decisions was to deny funding to the Mendocino Community Arts Center, a choice that was made by my legal team while I was too buried in my own pain to pay attention to how my company's policies affected real people. A murmur goes through the crowd. This isn't the defensive deflection they expected. I came to Mendocino seeking help for my son, and I found something I didn't expect: a community that understands healing, that invests in children, not because it's profitable, but because it's right. Nathan's voice grows stronger. I found an art teacher named Serena Ellison who gave my son back his voice, his joy, his ability to process grief through creativity. He pauses, looking directly at the cameras. Some of you have suggested that my interest in this community is romantic opportunism, that I'm exploiting my son's trauma for personal gain. Let me be absolutely clear. The only exploitation happening here was orchestrated by my former business partner, Damon Strickland, who hired private investigators to invade our privacy and threaten Ms. Ellison's reputation in order to force me back into a corporate merger that would destroy jobs and community investments. The reporters start shouting questions, but Nathan continues speaking. Today, I'm announcing the establishment of the Sarah Calloway Memorial Arts Endowment, with an initial investment of $500,000 and annual contributions based on community need. This fund will support arts education, trauma therapy, and community healing programs in small towns like Mendocino places that often lack the resources to provide these essential services to children. Nathan looks down at Lucas, who's now moved to stand beside the podium, his painted rock clutched in his small hands. I'm also announcing my resignation as CEO of Calloway Enterprises, effective immediately. I will remain as chairman of the board, but my primary focus going forward will be my son's well-being and supporting community-based initiatives that put people before profit. The crowd erupts. Reporters shout over each other, cameras flash like lightning, but Nathan's attention is on Lucas, who tugs at his father's jacket. "Daddy!" Lucas says in a voice just loud enough for the nearby microphones to pick up, "I made this for Mommy." He holds up his painted rock, a simple design in blues and whites that somehow captures the essence of sky and sea. Miss Serena says when we make beautiful things, the people we love can see them, even if they're far away. Nathan kneels down, accepting the rock with hands that shake slightly. "It's perfect, buddy. Mommy would love it." "Can we put it on the lighthouse?" Lucas asks. "So she knows we're okay now." Nathan looks up at Serena, who's been watching this exchange with tears streaming down her face. She nods, understanding something that doesn't need words. "Yeah," Nathan says, lifting Lucas into his arms. "We can put it on the lighthouse." The walk to the old lighthouse at the end of Mendocino's bluffs becomes an impromptu procession. Reporters follow, but so do townspeople, art center families, children carrying their own painted rocks and drawings. What started as a media circus transforms into something else entirely. A community rally, a celebration of healing, a demonstration of what happens when people choose connection over isolation. At the lighthouse, Lucas carefully places his rock at the base of the weathered tower next to dozens of others left by visitors over the years. But as they stand there, something magical happens. "Look," Lucas whispers, pointing toward the horizon. In the distance, barely visible through the afternoon haze, a small boat is making its way toward shore. Nothing unusual in itself, but Lucas starts waving and the boat's occupant waves back, a simple human connection across the water that somehow feels profound. "See?" Lucas says to Nathan. "The light works. It helps people find their way home." That evening, after the reporters have filed their stories and the town has returned to its normal rhythm, Nathan and Lucas join Serena and Aria for dinner at the little cafe run by Mac, the elderly man who's become their unofficial grandfather figure. "So," Mac says, refilling Nathan's coffee cup, "you've made quite a splash today, literally and figuratively." Nathan chuckles. "I suppose I have. Any regrets about this stranger disrupting your peaceful community?" Disrupting, Mac looks around the cafe, which is fuller than usual with families from the art center, children showing off their latest creations, conversations flowing between tables that never spoke before. Son, sometimes the best thing that can happen to still water is a good stone thrown in the middle. Lucas, who's been drawing contentedly beside Arya, looks up suddenly. Daddy, are we going to stay here forever? It's the question Nathan has been avoiding, even in his own mind. Would you like that? I like it here. But I also miss some things about home, like the big library and my old bedroom and the tree Mommy planted in the backyard. Nathan nods, understanding. Healing doesn't mean erasing the past or running away from memories. It means learning to carry them forward in a way that doesn't break you. What if we kept both, Nathan suggests. Chotito, what if we had a home here and a home there, and we went back and forth based on what felt right? Like the boats that go between places, Lucas asks. Exactly like that. Serena, who's been unusually quiet during dinner, finally speaks. What about your company? Your board of directors isn't going to accept a part-time chairman who lives 300 miles away. Then they'll have to find a new chairman, Nathan says simply. Or they'll have to accept that business can be done differently. That success doesn't require sacrificing everything else that matters. And Damon. Nathan's expression hardens slightly. Damon will discover that there are consequences for threatening innocent people. My lawyers found some very interesting connections between his private investigators and several unethical media practices. He's going to be too busy defending himself to mount any hostile takeovers. What does that mean? Arya asks, looking up from her own drawing. It means the bullies don't win. Lucas answers before Nathan can speak. It means good people stick together and take care of each other. That's exactly what it means, Serena says, reaching over to squeeze Lucas's hand. As they prepare to leave the cafe, Mac catches Nathan's arm. That story I told you about the lighthouse keeper. It wasn't just a story. There really was a keeper here back in the 1890s. During the worst storm in the county's history, he kept the light burning for 3 days straight, saved 17 ships. What happened to him? Mac smiles. He stayed, kept the light burning for 30 more years. They say some nights when the fog is thick and boats are struggling, you can still see his light guiding them home. That night, Nathan and Lucas walk down to the beach one more time before bed. The real lighthouse beam sweeps across the dark water in its eternal rhythm. But Lucas points to something else. A small light bobbing on the horizon, probably a fishing boat heading back to harbor. There, Lucas says softly. Like Mommy's light. It's not scary anymore. Nathan puts his arm around his son's shoulders, feeling the steady rise and fall of the boy's breathing, the solid warmth of him against Nathan's side. No, he agrees. It's not scary anymore. Above them, stars begin to emerge through the coastal fog, each one a distant lighthouse marking safe passage through the darkness. And for the first time since Sarah died, Nathan believes they're going to be okay. Some stories end with dramatic rescues or grand romantic gestures. But the best healing happens quietly in small moments of connection, in the daily choice to keep the light burning even when storms threaten to extinguish hope. 6 months later, the Mendocino Community Arts Center hosts its largest exhibition ever. Children's artwork hangs alongside pieces created by their parents, grandparents, and community members, a testament to how creativity spreads when given space to grow. Lucas stands before a large canvas depicting a family of boats sailing together toward a lighthouse. His technique has improved dramatically, but more importantly, the fear has left his brushstrokes. These boats aren't lost or broken. They're exploring, adventuring, coming home. Nathan watches from across the room, where he's talking with other parents about expanding the arts program to neighboring towns. His new nonprofit organization has already funded 3 similar centers along the California coast, each one designed and run by the community it serves. Serena approaches carrying Arya on her hip, both of them paint-splattered and laughing about some shared joke. She's been accepted into a master's program in art therapy with Nathan's foundation, providing a full scholarship and childcare support. Ready to go home? She asks Nathan a question that now has multiple possible answers. The beach house, the San Francisco apartment they've kept for school visits, or simply wherever the 4 of them are together. Nathan looks around the crowded art center at Lucas teaching a younger child how to mix colors at the lighthouse visible through the window, at Serena's paint-stained hands reaching for his. "Yeah," he says, "I'm ready to go home." Outside, the lighthouse beam sweeps across calm water, guiding all travelers safely to shore. What story of healing is waiting to unfold in your own life when you choose connection over isolation?